Here are the 10 strangest addictions people actually have. Number 10 is pulling your hair out. Have you ever heard the expression, "I'm so stressed I'm pulling my hair out"? Well, there's some truth to that. Trichotillomania is a mental disorder that involves pulling out hairs from your head, eyebrows, eyelashes, body, or even other places, usually one by one for the rush as it gets yanked from the follicle. It's often accompanied by a certain ritual like biting, chewing, or even eating the hair after it's been plucked. Without treatment, this hair pulling addiction can lead to patchiness and bald spots, along with disassociation from concerned family and friends. Sufferers of trichotillomania will go to insane lengths to hide their compulsion, including wearing wigs and hats. Yeah, they might think that works, but trust me, it only goes so far. Number 9 is eating glass. People, and especially kids, put all sorts of weird things in their mouth, but the addiction to eating glass should not be one of them. Yet, Lu Sundun from northeastern China has been eating glass for 32 years. Known as Iron Tooth to his friends, he appears to be healthy in spite of probable mental health issues, although his teeth have been weakened as he's aged. But he still has one hard tooth to chomp away with. I bet he can open sodas like a mofo. He often takes large bites out of the glass he's drinking from, often for the amusement of his family and friends, and is obviously a big hit at weddings. Something tells me he needs new friends. This is literally a man who would rather eat the glass he's drinking from than drink from it. I've heard of boxers who have a glass jaw, but this is ridiculous. Number 8 are inflatable animals. Oh yeah, it's about to get nasty. Calling an anthropomorphic pool float your best friend is fine, but calling it your lover is a bit inflated. TLC's My Strange Addiction introduced the world to Mark in 2013, a 20-year-old living in Redlands, California, who lives with 15 inflatable pool toys. I bet he just goes swimming all day. It's warm in California. No, he does more than that. His other inflatable friends didn't seem to mind as they worked out some sort of polyamorous agreement where they eat meals together at the kitchen table. Mark literally could not be away from his inflatable friends for more than a day, so his real-life friends made him go see a psychologist who helped him realize the pool toys provided affection he never got from his mother and started spending more time with human beings. Yay, he's cured! There's hope for everybody! Except he will always be known as the inflatable humper. Number 7 are coffee enemas. Coffee is the world's go-to morning beverage, especially when you're just really tired and don't want to talk to nobody. But a couple in St. Petersburg, Florida, named Trina and Mika, are taking their love of Java to a whole new level. Yeah, they consume their caffeine in reverse through enemas that they claim cleans out their colons while creating a sense of euphoria that they have become addicted to. Coffee butt. These people have coffee butt. The process involves brewing enough coffee to fill a 32-ounce bucket and then blasting it up where the sun don't shine using a Vaseline-coated hose before jumping onto the toilet. In case you were wondering, according to them, it comes flying out like a torrent. You needed to know that. They have both attempted to quit their addiction that they were doing at least 3 times a day, but claimed that they could not function without it, and their withdrawals created health problems, including kidney stones. Yeah, I think kidney stones are the least of your worries. You're blasting bean juice up your baho. Hashtag coffee butt. Number 6 is attending funerals. Oh, me? No, I'm not with the family. I just like the way the body smells. Funerals are, by nature, a morbid affair where close family and friends dress in black and collectively mourn their lost loved ones in private. But Louis Squarisi doesn't know the majority of people whose funerals he's attended because he is a funeral crasher and has been for 30 years. Squarisi lost his father back in 1983 when he was just 12 years old, and since then has attended every funeral in the small town of Batatais, Brazil since. He often checks the news newspaper obituaries and listens to the radio for news of recent deaths, and even calls the hospitals and funeral homes, and is so addicted that he quit his day job to attend funerals full time. But possibly the most disturbing thing is the fact that he's enabled by the locals, who don't seem to mind him attending these funerals and in fact look forward to him attending. I can't believe Grandma died. Yeah, but did you see Squirus? He's here. Ooh, he famous. Number 5 is a couch eater. Furniture store owners beware, because your inventory might just become a buffet for a Florida woman named Adele Edwards. She has a severe form of the eating disorder pica, where people crave substances completely lacking in nutrients like coins, chalk, and in her case, couch cushion foam. That's a nice sectional you got there. I'm just gonna have a little snacky snack. This mother of 5 began her addiction when she was just 10 years old, in the midst of her parents' divorce, and fell in love with the taste of couch foam, proving that once you pop, you just can't stop. In 2011, Edwards was snacking on couch cushions 15 times a day in times of stress, going through a pillow a week. She was hospitalized in 2008 for a blockage the size of a grapefruit in her lower intestine that nearly ended her life with a bout of sepsis, inspiring her to seek therapy with hypnosis to control her addiction. Yo, that's great she's seeking help, but have you seen Get Out? Hypnosis isn't always good. Number 4 is tanorexia. Known as the Tan Mom, Patricia Krenzel was the first to create national awareness about people who suffer from addiction to ultraviolet rays, which apparently releases the same endorphins that abusers of heroin experience, but with a better tan. She was arrested in 2012 for child endangerment when she took her 5-year-old daughter to the tanning salon. Sure, most of us look healthier with a nice bronzed face, but if you were born with fair skin, the opposite is true, and a tan is your body producing melanin that protects your skin from burning. Tan Mom may be a joke, but tanorexia is a real and serious addiction that can lead to deadly consequences in the form of various skin cancers like melanoma. Oh my god, is that a walking basted turkey? Oh no, that's just Mom. So be sure to always wear sunscreen and a hat and stay in the shade as often as possible, or you might just end up being a crispy Thanksgiving dinner. Number 3 is drinking human blood. Sorry, Dracula, but you aren't the only human bloodsucker in the game no mo. Julie Caplaise is a late 40s mother of a teenager that lives in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and is a real-life vampire. Caplaise claims that she drinks 2 liters of human blood a month, which makes her feel stronger and healthier, even though her drink of choice is scientifically proven to have minimal nutritional benefits. Her vampire career began as a teenager when she bit her boyfriend during her first kiss, and then she was hooked. But don't worry about your safety after dark in northeastern Pennsylvania, because Caplaise's blood supply comes from willing donors who allow her to drink from their backs, usually fellow goths that she meets at the occult and oddity store that she owns. And your total for this voodoo doll is $15.93. It also comes with a complimentary bite. Number 2 is eating husband's ashes. Losing a loved one is never easy, and people do all sorts of strange things when they grieve. But a woman only identified as Cassie on TLC's My Strange Addiction was regularly eating her husband's ashes. That's good husband right there. Her husband Sean was the love of her life when they married in 2009, but he suddenly died from a severe asthma attack, and it left her devastated. Well, Sean must have been a very sweet guy, literally, because Cassie got some of his ashes on her finger while transferring them to the urn and couldn't stop licking them. Cassie would buy Sean's favorite clothes, cook his favorite meals that she would just leave untouched, and took Sean everywhere she went, including shopping, the movies, and even restaurants where his ashes probably spiced up her meal. Yeah, hi, question, what happens when she runs out? Does she have to wait for another family member? I'm disturbed. And number 1 is sex with cars. Okay, yeah, this one just takes taking it up the tailpipe to a whole nother level. A lot of people are really into cars. They can be really sexy, revving the motor with music blasting, the top down with the wind in your hair. Well, Edward Smith takes that to a whole nother level, who lives in Washington State and is known as what's called a mechaphile, meaning that he has intimate relations with machines.
Have you had enough oil today? I hope so.
Smith has always been a car man, although he's also had relations with a helicopter and a plane, and claims that the deed is way better than with any human he's ever done it with. He claims to have made love to over 700 cars, which began as a teenager confused about his sexuality that decided to get familiar with a neighbor's Volkswagen. You know those Volkswagen Beetles looking at you with them big headlights? Ooh, they're just asking for it. Smith insists that he keeps it classy with no penetration, just caressing and hugging the car with his clothes kept on, and it's always consensual. Right, consensual, yeah. So what does he do? Just Okay, that means yes, she's ready to go. Number 1 is a tongue-eating parasite in tuna. Oh, look at that cute little guy. Looks like a baby Pokemon. It's a flesh-eating parasite? Oh. In mid-January of 2015, 28-year-old Zoe Louise Butler of Nottingham, England, purchased a can of Princess brand tuna chunks at her local grocery store. Upon prying open the lid, she noticed a pair of little black eyes looking back at her. Snapping a photo of it, she shared it on Twitter, asking for opinions as to what the tiny little creature might be. After much speculation over Eric, which was the name she gave the translucent little creature, and using the hashtag Tunagate, the Natural History Museum suggested that it's probably the head of a Cymotha exigua, also known as a tongue-eating louse. In case you didn't know, the tongue-eating louse is a parasite that lives and feeds on the tongues of certain fish by entering through their gills. After a long Twitter war of speculation ranging from a tadpole to a turtle, Eric's species was identified through a series of lab tests on February 6, 2015. Unbelievably, Butler did not seek any compensation from the tuna company for the incident, but I'm guessing she's probably going to avoid tuna for a while. Number 2 is finger in a sandwich. Okay class, rule number 1 for working at a fast food joint: if you cut off your finger, just walk out and don't tell anybody. Nothing's gonna happen. In May of 2012, Ryan Hart, a 14-year-old boy from Jackson, Michigan, bit into an Arby's Junior Roast Beef sandwich when he encountered something that was a little tough to chew on. What is this, parsley? Oh God! Claiming that it tasted disgusting and seemed rubbery in texture, the teen spit it out to discover that he had bit on someone else's chopped off finger and it was in his mouth. An investigation into the incident led health officials to conclude that a worker had actually severed her finger while operating a meat slicer and, for some reason, left the area without telling anybody about it. Soon after, another worker, realizing that the order still had to be completed, went to her station and continued preparing the meal. The injured worker was treated in hospital and the Arby's closed for cleaning, before any other unmentioned body parts just pop up. Is it roast beef or an eyeball? Nobody knows. Number 3 is a condom in clam chowder. When you're eating clam chowder, it's best to use protection. During the night of February 26, 2002 in Irvine, California, 48-year-old Layla Sultan was dining with 3 of her friends at a McCormick and Schmick's seafood restaurant. She was enjoying a nice bowl of clam chowder that she had ordered until she bit into something rubbery. She complained to her friends, but they just teased her, saying, "Oh, it's probably just clam." But unable to chew it, she decided to spit it out, only to discover that she was actually trying to consume an unpackaged and seemingly used condom. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a minute to marinate on that one. The seafood restaurant chain initially claimed that this was an obvious hoax, but soon after, she sued them for psychological damages and actually won an undisclosed amount in the settlement. Sadly, the man who obviously loved his soup a little bit too much was never found. I can see the headline now: Soup molester on the loose. Number 4 is a mouse in a loaf of bread. Nothing like a dead mouse and bread, oh boy! In January of 2009, while making a lunch of cheese sandwiches for his twin sons and daughter, 41-year-old Stephen Force of Kidlington, England, noticed something strange on the side of the bread that he was using. What is that, mold? Kids, lunch is canceled. The loaf of bread that Force had purchased through an online grocer included an entire dead mouse that was embedded in it. Disgusted over the fact that he had already used slices from that particular loaf earlier to feed his kids, Force notified the government of his gross find and environmental health officers collected the samples from his home. But if you thought that was disturbing, the tail of the rodent was missing and made Force even more grossed out because he realized that his family had already previously consumed it. After an investigation, it was determined that the lone mouse had made its way into the baking facilities and got compacted into the side of the bread crust. After admitting negligence and following proper food safety regulations, Premier Foods was forced to pay an equivalent of $21,000 US. That's not even a lot of money, $21,000? The guy and his family ate a rat tail. That man is never going to again be able to go close to Disneyland. A piece of me's in your belly. Number 5 are razor blades in burgers. In 2007, Cracker Barrel mysteriously pulled all hamburgers from hundreds of restaurants very suddenly. Patrons were confused when they showed up unable to order a burger, which was a popular menu item. Well, as it turns out, a woman in South Carolina reported ordering a burger as she had always done, except this time it had a razor blade embedded in it. Yeah, this burger tastes like a lot of blood. After biting into the burger, she actually cut the inside of her mouth with a piece of metal that was embedded in the patty. 313 restaurants out of a total of 557 were all told to remove the burgers from their restaurants for fears that there may be more situations like this. Strangely, the burgers are delivered to them pre-made and frozen from their biggest supplier, Cargill Meats, who investigated the issue. That's not even the disturbing part. What disturbs me is that they only shut down 313 restaurants out of 557. They're like, okay guys, we're gonna roll the dice on this one. These ones probably don't have razor blades, these ones do. Okay, let's sell some burgers. Number 6 is bandage in a pizza. After ordering a large Pizza Hut Supreme Pizza on June 8, 2011, 52-year-old Clifton Park, New Jersey resident Ken Wazurska ate a portion of it and then put the rest in the fridge as leftovers. So the next day, he decided, I want some tasty pizza. So he took it out, took a bite of one of the cold pizzas, only to discover something, I don't know, a little too chewy in the dough. Turning over that piece, he found a blue adhesive bandage. Not only that, but the bandage came complete with someone else's dried blood in the cotton and had actually been baked into the bottom of the crust of the pizza. But in possibly the strangest twist, once being a distribution manager himself, he actually felt sympathetic for the company, so he tried keeping quiet, complaining directly to Pizza Hut, but that didn't work. After being completely ignored by the company, he preserved the evidence in a sealed bag in the freezer and continued to complain. But after an entire month of being ignored, he decided to finally go public with his experience. This time, Pizza Hut took notice, but instead of reaching out to him, they publicly refuted his claims.
Our employees only use red bandages. This man is a fraud.
Number 7 are nails in mac and cheese. Bet you didn't know that a simple bowl of mac and cheese could quickly become a yummy nightmare. On August 24th, 2008, while halfway through eating a Tesco Value macaroni and cheese ready meal, 21-year-old bride-to-be Rebecca Shorten came across a troubling sight. There, among the orange cheesy noodles, were 2 nails. Just a little smidgen upset, she immediately stopped eating the meal, snapped a bunch of photos of her find, and set it aside. However, soon after, she became very ill and had to go to the emergency room to be checked out. I think you can guess where this is going. Doctors quickly discovered that there had been a 3rd nail in the dinner, and yes, she had accidentally eaten it. The doctors actually recommended that it would pass on its own, but that night she went home and experienced even worse pains. She was rushed back to the hospital, where she remained under observation and on morphine until the nail, passed. Oh, but Matt, did she get a big payday? No. For all of her trouble, Tesco only offered Shorten a refund on the meal, which amounted to less than $1. They did, however, recall all similar frozen meals. Man, I guess it takes 4 nails or more to get a payout these days. It's tough times. Number 8 is a tampon in steak. On July 10th, 2009, a man named Axel Sands Claus was fine dining at the Bull and Bear restaurant, which is located inside New York's famous Waldorf Astoria Hotel. A tourist from Germany, Sands Claus was chewing away at the expensive steak and spinach that he ordered when he suddenly found himself unable to break down whatever was in his mouth. Spitting it out, he was horrified to learn that he had been chewing on a used tampon. Oh my gross! After trying to sterilize his mouth by gargling brandy and running to the bathroom, Sands Claus had restaurant staff call him an ambulance, fearing that he had been exposed to an illness. At the hospital, doctors did confirm that the item was what he thought it was, and he was tested for hepatitis. As if that wasn't enough, he was then instructed to wait 2 weeks and then get an AIDS test. Meanwhile, the Waldorf Astoria launched an investigation into the Bull and Bear restaurant, but found no evidence that the tampon came from their kitchen and called the matter highly suspicious. Highly suspicious? I call it highly disturbing. Oh, I'm gonna yak. Number 9 is a knife in a sub. In June of 2008, 27-year-old John Agassini was just a few bites into his foot-long cold-cut sandwich at a Subway restaurant in New York City when he spotted the melted plastic of a handle and the shine of a blade. One more bite and his teeth would have found an 18-centimeter long serrated knife that had been carelessly left in the sub. When Subway investigated, they found out that the employee had accidentally dropped the blade into the dough that he soon after baked into foot-long loaves of bread. So many choices. Do I want cheese, garlic, or bloody mouth? The contaminants in his first few bites from the plastic handle caused him to contract food poisoning, and he sued Subway for $1 million. But the two parties eventually settled out of court for $20,000. But unfortunately for the fast food giant, Agassini wasn't the only person to find such a thing in their sub. In December of 2008, Martin Venner of Cornwall, England, was about to dig into his sweet chili chicken footlong sub when he discovered another even longer knife had been baked right into the bread as well. Sadly, he was less fortunate than Agassini and was only offered a replacement sandwich and 50 pounds. 50 pounds, yeah, 50 pounds of bullshit. And number 10 is bullets in a hot dog. On May 6, 2004, a hungry 34-year-old woman named Olivia Chains went to a snack bar in a Costco in Irvine, California. Relaxing from a long ordeal of shopping, she ordered a delicious-looking hot dog, but what she received wasn't as edible as she had expected. In fact, and pardon the pun for this, but what she got really blew her away. Only a few bites in, she bit down into something super hard. Spitting it out, she found a 9mm handgun bullet on her plate. But the trauma did not end there, because soon afterwards she began feeling agonizing abdominal pains. At that point, she was rushed to the hospital where she was given x-rays which revealed that she had actually swallowed a bullet before finding the second one in her hot dog. Eventually, she passed the live ammunition naturally, and Costco performed an investigation into their meats and packaging departments. Yo, I gotta load this gun, but I gotta finish my meat packing shift. I'm gonna do both at the same time. Soon after, the police were involved, but they reported that they had no idea where the bullets even came from. You know, not many people can say that they've had a bullet pass right through them, but in Olivia's case, that's a club that she definitely belongs to. Fried brain sandwiches.
Perhaps you'd like a nice Chianti with this one, Clarice.
Made from fried calves brains, this dish is popular in El Salvador, Mexico, and even the good old US of A. Apparently, brains have a mushy texture and they have very little flavor, so it's highly recommended to use lots of sauces to help flavor it. I have a question. How disturbed is the person that came up with this dish? Like, for real, whoever you are, you need to just like lay off the zombie movies because they're influencing you a little bit too much. It's a little bit unhealthy. Rocky Mountain oysters. But Matt, what's so gross about oysters? Well, as you can see from the picture, Rocky Mountain oysters aren't oysters at all. In fact, that's just the fancy name given to what they really are, fried testicles. Taken from either a bull, a buffalo, or a boar, these are popular in parts of Canada and the USA. They're peeled, boiled, rolled in flour, and then deep fried. Oh, and they come with a delightful cocktail sauce. Cocktail. For real though, how does one go about procuring the materials needed to cook such a delicacy? You gotta have some serious balls of your own to try to go grab some bull nuts.
Sorry, Bessie, but I got to eat dinner tonight.
This next one's called balut. This one. Popular in the Philippines, Cambodia, and Vietnam, balut is a boiled chicken or duck egg with an almost completely developed embryo. This is essentially their equivalent of hot dogs, which is sold by street vendors. You know, I've been an omnivore my whole life, but like, this is the closest I've ever come to wanting to convert to vegetarianism. Deep fried tarantula. Oh god, nope, that's it for me. I'm out. We're done. Video's over. We're gonna have to get through this one quick. Popular in Cambodia, tarantulas are deep fried and eaten as a tasty treat. You can buy them individually or in a pile to eat like French fries. Okay, let's go to the next one. Frog sashimi. It's not easy being green. That was a terrible impression. In Tokyo, raw skinned frog is a popular dish. And if that isn't fresh enough for you, some chefs will actually cut open a live frog and pass the still beating heart over to you for immediate consumption, which is, believe it or not, a popular delicacy in some areas. After that, appetizer, the rest of the frog is served in its entirety on a plate to you along with some raw seafood. Yummy! Seriously though, who would ever want a still beating heart? Other than that one witch doctor guy from Indiana Jones.
Kalima! Kalima! Kalima!
The fuck? Mackerel. Popular in Iceland, mackerel is made by gutting a Greenland or basking shark, letting it ferment for 2 to 4 months, after which it reeks of ammonia. It's available all year round and is often served as cubes on toothpicks. Aw, really? Just little bites? That's disappointing. I was hoping for a large slab of ammonia-smelling fermented shark meat. Fugu. Fugu is the Japanese word for poisonous pufferfish. These fish are filled with a poisonous toxin and only a specially trained chef with years of experience can prepare it. Strangely, some chefs actually choose to leave a little bit of the toxin in the fish, which causes a tingling sensation on the lips and tongue. What's weird to me though is that this fish is reportedly really bland, so why would you risk eating it knowing that you could potentially die or at least swell up from the poison?
Hey guys, I think you left too much poison in the fish.
Kasu marzu. Matt, is that bread pudding? No, it's sheep's milk infested with insect larvae. Yum! Found in Sardinia, Italy, translucent worms are added to the cheese to help promote fermentation. Why would anyone do that? What's most disturbing is that some actually choose to brush off the bugs before eating a spoonful of cheese. Yeah, that's right, some prefer to brush off the bugs. Not all. Oh god, I don't do bugs. Let's just keep it moving. Yak penis. Well, this one speaks for itself. Popular in Beijing, China, this one's known as the dragon in the flame of desire. Or as I call it, big honkin' yak dick. Consuming this giant piece of yak dick jerky is supposed to be good for you according to the locals and costs hundreds of dollars. What's really interesting is this is not an exclusive dish. The restaurant that sells it has animal genitalia in almost every one of its dishes. Here's another good question. How does somebody become inspired to want to cook animal penis? Like, did someone at some point say to the restaurant owner, go eat a dick, and he was like, hey, good idea, thank you. And finally, tuna eyeball. Found in Japanese grocery stores for about $1 US, this comes surrounded by severed muscles and fish fat and apparently tastes like squid, which is weird because I would have thought it tasted like tuna. Prepared by being seasoned and boiled, this is a very common dish with many fans. You know, out of all the foods that I've shown you, this one doesn't even gross me out. In fact, I'm cool with it. I just have a question. What the f kind of tuna has an eyeball that big? Do they have like giant mutant tuna in Japan or something? Looks like they plucked out Godzilla's eye. Damn. Number 5 is eating toilet paper. First off, what's your favorite food? Chocolate? Pizza? How about pasta? I'm guessing that there's a good number of you who love to eat those foods, but there may just be someone different among you. Yeah, someone among you with, different tastes. In the reality TV show My Strange Addiction, a 34-year-old woman by the name of Kesha was addicted to eating toilet paper. Thankfully, toilet paper that hadn't been used. I think I was just a wee bit sick in me mouth. Anyway, Kesha would eat several rolls of toilet paper in one day. Whether she was sitting at her computer or at work, she would nibble on the stuff quite happily. She knew she had an addiction problem as she was hiding how much of the stuff that she was consuming from her loved ones. She did this by quickly eating a slice of toilet paper when she was sure no one was looking. Sometimes she would even sneak into the bathroom to eat it. To be fair, a bathroom has the right ambiance for a 3-course meal made out of toilet paper. I mean, come on. Wait, I wonder what was for dessert. Anyway, Kesha's family were shocked when they realized what she was doing and encouraged her to get off that sweet, sweet toilet paper gravy train. Oh wait, that might have been a poor choice of words. The truth behind addictions like these is that the people involved are suffering from a medical condition called pica. Pica sometimes appears in young children for a while, and it's when they try to consume objects that we don't traditionally see as food. This could be soil from the ground or even pieces of wood. Most kids who have this condition grow out of it as their parents show them what's edible and what's not. A lot of this behavior has been linked to mineral deficiencies such as a lack of iron. And this actually makes sense since soil can contain mineral deposits, though I wouldn't recommend eating it as a supplement. Especially that nasty soil in the parks where people walk their dogs. When adults continue to eat these materials, it's usually a psychological addiction as opposed to a mineral deficiency. For Kesha and others who like to chow down on the toilet paper, their behavior is an example of a little known form of pica called xylophagia. This involves eating paper for comfort. Here's hoping that Kesha has gotten all the help that she needs to get over her addiction. It'll certainly cut down on her toilet paper bill. Number 4 is being a mermaid. People have always enjoyed dressing up. Whether it's for Halloween or to cosplay for a comic book convention, it's something that gives a lot of people joy in their lives. But there's a thin line between passion and addiction. In a small number of cases, people who like to dress up as different animals, for example, become so transfixed by the process that they actually want to live as those animals. And I get it, I do. I mean, I once got kicked out of my local Ewok club for being too tall. Here's a prime example of where passion falls into obsession and then addiction. Eric Ducharme admitted to his friends and family that he was transfixed by one mythical creature, the mermaid. He loved watching films about them and reading books about alleged encounters at sea with them, but despite this admission, his family were still shocked when he decided to live as a mermaid. And this isn't helped by the fact that Eric is actually a certified scuba and free diver, so he was able to take this addiction further than many would. Training himself to hold his breath underwater for more than 4 minutes at a time, Eric wrapped his lower body in an elaborate prosthetic to make himself look like a fish from the waist down. He's actually able to swim like this, making himself appear to the untrained eye to be a real bona fide mermaid. I'm guessing Eric has watched a ton of Little Mermaid as a kid, and who can blame him? Delightful. I'm not sure that it would actually make me want to live as a mermaid, but it did, however, make Eric legally change his name to one of the characters in the film. Eric was quoted in an interview as saying, "It's taken me a really long time to understand my place in life. Being underwater, I feel like I'm away from the world." When Eric swims, he spends 3 days a week in the water. I'm guessing when he leaves the water, he looks more like a wrinkled prune than a mermaid, but I digress. But his family seems to support his mermaid escapades now, so this fairy tale seems to have concluded with a happy ending. That is until some renegade hunter tries to catch him in a net, or with a harpoon. That would be quite a photo. Number 3 is chewing ice. We've already talked about the class of strange eating addictions called pica. Well, here's one where the food can be swallowed, but not without melting at first. Back in 2014, Cosmopolitan ran a fascinating article about Kay Suzanne, a 45-year-old mother of 2 who became overwhelmed by her ice chewing addiction. But you might be saying, Matt, I like ice in my drinks. I like to nom 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 on it sometimes. What's the big deal? Just hold on, I'll explain. The strange addiction started after Kay gave birth at the age of 34 to her first child. Slowly but surely, the ice chewing started at first just crunching on some ice cubes that hadn't melted in her drink. But the first sign that the addiction was taking over was when she started making ice in her freezer and putting it in a cup or bowl next to her as she worked. Then she would crunch down on each ice cube like it was a flavorful spicy nacho. Kay's addiction soon soared, and she was carrying ice with her wherever she went. Soon, she was walking around with the stuff in a container, and she wouldn't even try to hide it. She'd apologize to people who stared at her as she crunched down on a handful of frozen ice at a time, but she just couldn't stop the addiction. We seriously need to keep her away from Olaf the Frozen. Could you imagine the horror? Thankfully, Kay's addiction was eventually cured. She was actually diagnosed with pagophagia, a form of pica linked directly to eating ice. As it turns out, some women naturally develop anemia during pregnancy. That's when the blood doesn't contain enough iron. This usually resolves itself or with some low-level iron supplementation. But in Kay's instance, the anemia did not respond to usual treatments for the condition. Years after giving birth, she still had low iron levels. Both her dentist and her doctor suspected that the ice chewing was directly related to this problem, and if it could be resolved, the ice chewing would cease. You see, one theory is that ice chewing occurs with people that have low iron because it increases the person's awareness levels, temporarily reversing fatigue brought about by the anemia. Eventually, Kay was treated with a special iron infusion by a hematologist, and her desire to chew ice disappeared entirely. Though, like I said, I'd still keep her away from Olaf just to be on the safe side. You never know when she might relapse. Iceman. Number 2 is addicted to bee stings. The addictions I've mentioned so far haven't involved pain, but there are some pretty strange addictions out there that will make your skin crawl. Literally. This one's not for the squeamish. A woman from Kentucky named Margaret stings herself with more than, brace yourself, 100 bees a week. As with many addictions, this bizarre fixation began when Margaret was trying to fix something in her life. She had been diagnosed with arthritis and turned to the internet for answers. The internet, as per usual, gave her, shall we say, less than solid advice? I know, shocking. She found a random website that suggested that bee stings could keep her arthritis at bay, and so Margaret's fascination with the stinging little insects began. At first she would catch bees and then put them on her skin to get them to sting her. Eventually though, her habit became compulsive, and like many, she decided to grow her own medicine. Margaret cultivated beehives in her back garden, giving her an endless supply of bees. She would grab one using a pair of tweezers and then push it against her skin until it stung her. Eventually she was doing this with 15 bees at a time. Margaret's husband grew concerned about this addiction, obviously, but wasn't surprised by it. In an interview, he said that Margaret had always had kind of a taste for looking at the odd side of things. I have no idea what he's referring to, but if stinging herself with hundreds of bees is what she lets people know about, then the mind boggles as to what she doesn't. Maybe she lets her husband dress up as a bee and sting her. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Doctors have advised Margaret that by stinging herself so often, the body might eventually respond with a dangerous allergic reaction. Others have taken Margaret's addiction one step further and began branding this treatment as live bee acupuncture. Nope. That's right, people are now paying to have this done to them. Some for unproven medical reasons and some even for pleasure. My advice would be, if you have a bunch of bees living in your garden, start selling their, I don't know, honey. It's sweet, it's golden, and it doesn't hurt like, I don't know, 100 bee stings. And number 1 is living as a baby. Some people never grow out of their behavior. Like I said, some people never grow out of their behavior, while others deliberately seek out a pastime in their lives that gives them comfort. Neither of these situations means someone is an addict, but in some rare circumstances, a person can become completely addicted to a stage in their life in a way that significantly overhauls their daily routine. An extreme example of someone being addicted to a previous time in their life is Paigey, a woman who lives her entire life as a baby. Not only is this something she does throughout her personal life, but she even gets financial support from others who like to see her live that way. Paigey is 25 years old, and yet she wakes up in a crib every morning, has her diaper changed, and then plays in a nursery room for the rest of the day. Yes, she even drinks milk from a bottle. Yes, she crawls around the floor like a baby. And yes, she gets to play with toys all day. Actually, that sounds pretty cool, minus the pooping in your pants part. Paigey has a successful business where she raises money as a content creator based around her lifestyle as an adult baby. She feels supported by her community and her fiance, who isn't a part of this strange addiction. He does understand though and doesn't cast judgment. Some people claim that living as an adult baby is actually a good thing and merely a preference. Like maybe you enjoy playing the guitar, but someone else prefers the piano. No, that's not a good comparison. This is just weird. But like I said, some people like the piano, some people like the guitar, and then some people love those teeny tiny drums babies get to whack on all day and light up, you know, with the songs. It's kind of fun, I guess. But hey, at the end of the day, whatever you like, go for it. As long as it isn't hurting other people. Especially if you have any old Beanie Babies or maybe, you know, Power Rangers. Now, I'm not saying I had the Power Rangers toys. I definitely did. But if you did, you know, we could play I Miss My Childhood. Number 1 is pink goop in the McNuggets. Okay, everybody has seen this picture, and it's probably one of the most frequent rumors that you've heard. The rumor is that chicken McNuggets are made with this mysterious pink slime, but guess what? That is completely false. When it comes to McDonald's, their chicken McNuggets are made with chicken breast, no pink goop. But it's not just that. In fact, they don't even contain artificial flavors or colors, and McDonald's recently changed the recipe so that McNuggets contain no artificial preservatives either. So what you're ordering is literally chicken. It's just chicken breast. It's time to let this myth die. It's simply not true. Number 2 is their supplier is called 100% beef. Here's another one that you've likely heard. The rumor is that McDonald's beef isn't all beef, but they can say it's 100% beef because the company that they buy from is called 100% beef. That's a clever conspiracy theory, but it's not true and never has been. The origin of this myth comes from the early 2000s when distrust of large corporations was at an all-time high when people associated affiliated large corporations with constantly trying to cut costs. The truth is, McDonald's uses 100% beef in its hamburger patties with no other ingredients except salt and pepper, which are added after cooking, but it's actually more interesting than that. They specifically use only beef sourced right here in Canada for their hamburger patties. Here in Canada, they get their beef from a company called Cargill, which gets 100% of the beef from cows raised by Canadian farmers. But now, what part of the cow do they use? Let me tell you. They use the chuck, round, shoulder, brisket, loin, and rib for their hamburgers. Sourcing locally in Canada directly supports the Canadian job market. In fact, 65 million pounds of beef was sourced from Canadian farmers just last year. That's a lot of work. Number 3 is Big Macs can't age because of all the preservatives. A rumor that sprung out of nowhere that many of you have heard is that McDonald's burgers can't get old or rot under any condition because of the amount of chemicals and preservatives in their food, essentially making their food immortal. But yeah, it's not. The origin of this rumor is people who have posted fake pictures online as misinformation for views and shares on social media, and in an age where this is pretty popular, it doesn't surprise me that it caught on. The truth is, McDonald's burgers are no different than any other food. If a burger is left out in the open, it will simply dry up. That's just science, and it goes for any burger. So think critically about what you see online. Often, it's just for shock value. Number 4 is pig fat is used in the soft serve. This myth says that McDonald's soft serve isn't made with milk, but instead pig and animal fat. This rumor began because McDonald's doesn't use the term ice cream, but instead they say soft serve. So I did some digging and I found out what's going to shock you. McDonald's soft serve is made with real milk and cream from Canadian dairy farmers. Yeah, surprised me too. See, they use the term ice milk because their vanilla soft serve is a bit different than ice cream. It's considered ice milk because it has 3 to 5% butterfat content, making it a lighter and airier dairy treat than ice cream. And they use that same vanilla soft serve to make their sundaes, cones, and McFlurry desserts. Sorry, conspiracy theorists, but you gotta get your pig fat somewhere else. And number 5 is McMuffins are frozen egg discs. If you've ever had an egg McMuffin for breakfast, you've probably noticed how perfectly round the egg is in the middle. Hence the origin of this rumor, which is that McDonald's uses frozen egg discs in their Egg McMuffins. But guess what? It's a myth. In fact, every single Egg McMuffin is made with a freshly cracked Canada Grade A large egg. The egg is circular because that's the shape of the container that it's cooked in, and they do that so that it fits properly on the sandwich and doesn't get all over you. If you've ever made an egg at home and broke the yolk, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Last year, of the almost $1 billion McDonald's Canada spent on food, more than 85% was purchased from suppliers in Canada. Here in Canada, fresh Canadian eggs from Canadian farmers. Canadian potatoes grown on Canadian farms. It's pretty clear they like to support the countries that they operate in. Number 1 is coffee. Coffee is something many people simply can't start their day without, but drink enough of it and yes, you absolutely can get high. Because it's so popular, people often forget that it's a drug, more specifically the caffeine part. Caffeine can boost your energy, making you feel more alert and even give you an elevated sense of well-being. And guess what? That's the definition of being high. Now to be clear, 400 milligrams of caffeine is the healthy max that a person can consume in a day. But that's only about 3 to 4 cups of coffee, and if you drink more, you can actually get high. In fact, 5 cups of coffee or more can actually lead to caffeine intoxication, which causes nausea, diarrhea, and even worse, mess up your nervous system. 2 male undergrad students from Northumbria University in England nearly died while taking part of a study to test the effects of caffeine on exercise. The researchers accidentally gave them 30 grams of pure caffeine instead of 0.3 grams. That's almost 300 cups of coffee. Almost immediately, both men experienced violent side effects like convulsions, blurred vision, and vomiting, and both had to be put on dialysis. So coffee can perk you up, but just don't overdose on it. Number 2 are mulberries. If you feel like seeing things that aren't there and don't mind being bent over the toilet shortly after, try some mulberries. Raspberries' uglier, more exotic cousin, they're normally found in tropical places, and these berries can be quite toxic to humans if they aren't fully ripe. Eating unripe mulberries can get you high, leading to moderate hallucinations and lightheadedness. But you might want to think again if you were considering starting a psychedelic pies and jams business, and that's because these bad boy berries are actually a natural laxative and a super powerful one at that. So to avoid a day in the bathroom puking your guts out, don't eat these. Number 3 is nutmeg. The smell of nutmeg immediately makes most people think of Christmas, eggnog, or fruitcake, which I happen to like, don't judge me. It's one of the most common spices you can find in holiday desserts, but having too much of it can really screw up both your mind and your body. The active ingredient in nutmeg that gets you high is called myristicin, which the human body is capable of converting into an amphetamine-style psychedelic. All you have to do is ingest as little as 4 teaspoons of this spice, and at first you might feel as good as Christmas morning, with some mild hallucinations and the feeling of pins and needles in your arms and legs. But just when you think that you're in the clear, 5 hours later, the dizziness and nausea will set in, and you'll find yourself curled up in a ball, paranoid that the world is caving in on you, while your mouth becomes as dry as the Sahara. And the next morning, you'll be having one of the worst hangovers of your life, from nutmeg. Does that sound like a jolly good time to you? I don't think so. Number 4 are chili peppers. You might be thinking, but the only thing getting high from chili peppers is my core temperature. Yeah, but you're mistaken. It turns out chilies are quite useful in medicine. Chilies contain high levels of capsaicin, which is the chemical that causes the spicy food to be spicy. But it's also responsible for sending out endorphins in response to all of that heat. See, when your body senses heat, it releases endorphins to ease the anticipated pain of getting burnt. On the skin, it can feel like numbness, and when you eat them, the effects are even more intense. In fact, historians believe that the Mayans were way ahead of the sriracha trend and were using chilies as hallucinogens over 9,000 years ago. Chili peppers can bring the feeling of euphoria as the pleasure center of your brain gets stimulated. That's why when you eat something really spicy, it may feel like a blowtorch to your mouth, but eventually the discomfort goes away and you kind of start to feel good. And it's chasing that high, which is part of why barstool daredevils keep ordering the suicide hot wings. Number 5 is Sarpa salpa. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, I'm a fish, everything is melting, purple is my spirit animal. There's a fish out there that's totally capable of making you hallucinate if you eat it. The Sarpa salpa is usually found in the eastern Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, but it can be found on many a dinner plate as well. Now, the body of the fish is completely edible and many people enjoy it. But eating its head is where the real trip begins. The Sarpa salpa eats a lot of algae and plankton, which can contain hallucinogenic chemicals called indole. It's hard to tell how much indole is in the fish just by looking at it. So it's pretty much a coin toss from just eating a fish head for the sake of eating a fish head, or having the worst hellfire and brimstone trip of your life. Be sure you've got someone to watch over you if you do this, which I do not recommend, but you'll probably regret it either way. If you do try it, you can at least feel like the Romans, which also ate Sarpa salpa to trip balls, which also kind of explains a lot about the Romans, doesn't it? Number 6 are mushrooms. Obviously, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only, so I'm not saying to go out there and try any of these, especially this one because you could literally die from it. Mushrooms are a form of fungi, and there are literally thousands of different species that exist. This makes it kind of hard to figure out which one would be a good pizza topping, or which ones will make you think that you're in the land of Oz, or which ones will kill you instantly. Psilocybe, or magic mushrooms, have been used as a psychedelic drug for ages. Like other mild hallucinogens, they can cause a sense of euphoria and feeling like you live in a kaleidoscope, while also causing dizziness, nausea, and vomiting. Bummer. But since most mushrooms look so similar, if you aren't a trained botanist, you could end up taking a lethal dose of something super poisonous. So unless you bought it from the grocery store, it's best to leave the magic to the professionals. Number 7 are poppy seeds. It's been a long-standing rumor that poppy seed bagels have caused some people to fail their drug tests. But before you dismiss that as just a myth, keep watching. Opium is actually made from poppy seeds, which contain morphine and codeine, and poppy seed bagels have, a lot of them. Yeah, there's a reason that Dorothy passed out in the field for like a day, guys. These are some of the most addictive painkillers out there, which makes it no surprise that centuries ago, opium fueled the global drug trade. Even today, there is a huge problem of people abusing prescription pills trying to chase down that same high. Now, granted, you'd have to eat a lot of poppy seeds to get you messed up, but depending on where the poppy seeds came from, it is most definitely possible that you could get high. Number 8 is Stilton cheese. You don't even have to be awake to get the effects of this drug/food. In fact, it's better if you're not. Dating back to the 1700s, this particular pungent type of blue cheese was founded in a village called Stilton in England. The cheese is exported around the world, but there are only 3 countries in England that still make it according to its strict code. If you aren't a fan of strong cheese, you might feel like just a bite will knock you out, but the truth is it's actually known to affect the dreams of those who eat it. A survey completed in 2005 by the British Cheese Board, yeah, that's a thing, found that 75% of men and 85% of women who consumed Stilton cheese just half an hour before going to sleep had incredibly strange and vivid dreams. Many even reported that the dreams were so real that it was if they were having hallucinations rather than dreaming. Well, it sure seems like a halloumi of a good time. I mean, it sounds pretty great. Really, it doesn't get any better than that. Okay, I'm just gonna go listen to some R&B. Number 9 is rye bread. While not every piece of rye bread comes with that little something extra to get you high, it doesn't mean that the next sandwich you have won't. In fact, historians claim that this seemingly innocent baked good could have been the cause of some of the events that got people tried as witches during the Salem witch trials. See, ryegrass is susceptible to a fungus called Claviceps purpurea, which causes a little thing called ergot poisoning. When ingested by humans, this stuff can lead to many issues, including headaches, nausea, and intense hallucinations. Which maybe isn't so surprising when you consider that ergot contains ergotamine, which just so happens to be a psychoactive chemical which is used in the synthesis of LSD. So you may not feel awesome, dude, but if you're looking to see and hear things that aren't there, a little ergot poisoning with your rye bread in the morning is just what the unlicensed back alley doctor ordered. And number 10 is sugar. Okay, you've heard of a sugar high before, right? Well, before you go dismissing it as something that exclusively happens to children binging on cake and candy at a birthday party, let's discuss just how much of a drug sugar actually is. For starters, it's important to understand that sugar affects people differently. Our bodies tend to burn through the basic carbohydrates that make up sugar pretty quickly, leaving the body to have a short burst of energy. Now, this doesn't last long, but it feels great, so naturally, we start to crave even more. So, this is a substance that you can take internally, get a short high from, and then crash, and it makes you want more of it? Sounds like a drug to me. In fact, believe it or not, excessive amounts of sugar can actually damage internal organs in ways that hard drugs like heroin and cocaine never could. So after learning that, it shouldn't be a surprise that sugar is highly addictive. And the problem with so much packaged and processed food out there is that sugar is in practically everything, making it really hard to avoid. That being said, damn sugar, where's my pixie sticks? Yeah. Number 10 is pasta. Who touched my spaghetti? If I were to ask you to think of a food that is 100% Italian, you would likely say, pasta. You gotta put the meatballs in there with the marinara sauce. Mwah. Pasta is a staple of the family dinner table, with many enjoying a variation of the Italian dish more than once a week. However, most historians agree that those tasty noodles didn't originate in Italy at all, but actually arrived in the country with the Arabs from Libya when they invaded in the 9th century AD. In fact, this has been pointed to as the moment that Italy's cuisine was drastically changed, as other foods such as eggplant, spinach, and sugarcane were introduced as well. Of course, it was Italians who mastered the dish, though it wasn't limited to dinner. Many enjoyed pasta as a dessert or even a treat, adding sugary flavors and eating it with their hands. I'm not gonna lie, I have a crazy sweet tooth. Put some Nutella in some noodles. Don't judge me. Number 9 is hot chocolate. Considering the way that modern day hot chocolate is made, it would be understandable if you thought that it wasn't a very old invention. However, the truth is that a variation of that delicious sweet beverage has been around for literally thousands of years. Archaeologists have discovered evidence in Mexico that the ancient Mayans used to mash cocoa seeds into a paste and mix it with water, chili peppers, spices, and cornmeal. They would then pour that substance back and forth from a cup into a pot until it became frothy. By the way, side note, if you haven't had Mexican chocolate with the spice in it, of course, the hot cocoa that we enjoy today isn't a spicy beverage, but back then it was an esteemed drink. Hot chocolate was introduced to the European countries in 1528, where it underwent changes to deliver a more dessert-like delicacy enjoyed by the elite. Number 8 is sausage. Everyone loves a good sausage. With all the effort that goes into making them, you'd think sausages were a more modern food, but they actually date back over 5,000 years. Evidence has been uncovered in what is today Iraq that ancient Sumerians who populated the region back then enjoyed a food that closely resembled sausage around 3000 BC. Much like today, making sausage was a way to ensure all the edible parts of an animal were used, all of it being ground up with salt and spices to give it a taste and longer shelf life. Traditionally, the ingredients are encased in the intestines of animals, but today it's often made with edible cellulose or even plastic. I know, all of that still sounds gross. You know what they say about sausage, if you like it, don't find out what it's made of. My bad. Number 7 is Marmite. Love it or hate it, and I definitely hate it, Marmite is a popular food in many countries, though its home will always be the United Kingdom. Though it's made primarily by a British company and has a French name, Marmite was actually invented by a German scientist named Justus von Liebig, and he discovered the substance by accident. In the late 19th century, while working with yeast extract, a byproduct of brewing beer, Liebig found that it could be concentrated and made edible. In 1902, the Marmite Food Company was founded in Burton-on-Trent, a town in Staffordshire, England. Today, over 25 million jars are sold worldwide. And again, I really don't understand because I've been sent this by a fan before. Oh god. Also, bonus fun fact, Liebig was dubbed the father of the fertilizer industry. That's right, Marmite was invented by a fertilizer specialist. So I guess that explains the taste. Number 6 is gelatin. As odd as it may sound, gelatin apparently began as a form of glue, adhering things during ancient Egypt's long history. Archaeologists have found evidence that it was also used in paints used to make the glyphs in caves, as it helped the paint stick to the stone walls. Though it's thought to have become a food soon after, the process of making jelly was not written about in found texts until 1682. That's when Denis Papin of France recorded his research into an edible pure protein substance. It wasn't until 1895 that the most famous gelatin, Jell-O, came into existence. That's when Pearl B. Waite, a cough syrup manufacturer in Leroy, New York, and his wife May began adding fruit syrups to the otherwise bland gelatin. And the rest was wiggly jiggly history. Number 5 is the hamburger. Hamburger. When you think of fast food, more often than not, you're picturing hamburgers, a food that has a confusing name. Most patties are made of beef, not pig, so why would they be called hamburgers? Well, it turns out that it's not the meat that these delicious items are named after, but where they were invented. People had been eating beef long before the 19th century, when a chef in Hamburg, Germany, minced up some beef, mixed it with onions, garlic, salt, and pepper, and then served it in a patty form, without a bun, kind of like a steak. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution when German immigrants to the United States began opening food carts outside of factories in Chicago and New York and put the patties on buns to save on utensils. And thus, the hamburger as we know it was born. And then my personal favorite character, the Hamburglar, came much later. Bless McDonald's. Number 4 is the sandwich. This may surprise you, but not only were sandwiches not named after a surname, they were invented long before they even got their name. In ancient Turkey and Greece, meats and cheeses were served on layers of bread with dips long before 1762, when John Montagu IV, Earl of Sandwich, found himself gambling. Montagu refused to leave a 24-hour card game and demanded his cook bring him something that he could eat with one hand and not make a mess. The unnamed chef put some meat between 2 pieces of toast, and the result was delicious. People all over England began asking for Sandwich's meal, and the name evidently stuck. There's little wonder as to why it took a long time for the sandwich to catch on overseas, as in Britain, the popular type wasn't ham or tuna, but tongue. Yum. Number 3 is pizza. Sitting in the top 3 favorite foods in the United States, along with numerous other countries worldwide, pizza is a complicated food that's evolved a great deal from its ancient inventing. If you ask around, people will probably claim za was an American invention, especially if you're in America, but its origin goes much farther back than that. Pizza is a more modern version of focaccia, a flatbread-style food from ancient Rome that's been said to have originated in the region of Liguria. What really made pizza the amazing meal it is today was when tomatoes arrived in Italy from the Americas. Initially, people turned the red fruits away, believing them to be poisonous, but by the 18th century, people were adding tomato paste, cheese, and meats to what is early pizza. Number 2 is apple pie. Okay, seriously, I'm getting very hungry. If you happen to live in the United States, odds are pretty good you've heard someone refer to something as being as American as apple pie. And sure, apple pie is definitely a staple of many diets in the country, but just how American is it? Well, it turns out that while it's evolved as a dessert over the years, the earliest versions of it came about long before America was colonized by Europeans. In 1381, a recipe for apples being baked into an inedible crust was printed in England by Geoffrey Chaucer and included other ingredients like pears, figs, and raisins. Now you might be thinking, what about cheese on apple pie? That's American. And unfortunately, you'd be wrong. In the 1600s, England seemed to go through a dairy phase, adding salty dairy products to desserts including pie. Wait, stop. I'm not gonna lie, I've never had cheese on apple pie. Is that a thing? Leave it in the comments below, because if it is, I need to try it. And number 1 is coffee. Woo! Caffeine! Woo! Woo! That little cup of joy that allows you to get through your day and tolerate your coworkers has a long yet humorous history. That's because, believe it or not, you might not have that little bit of extra energy if it weren't for goats. It's widely believed that coffee originated in Ethiopia, though several stories have been brought forward to explain its discovery, all or none of which are true. The most famous tale is that of a goat herder named Kaldi, who, upon checking on his animals, found that they were frolicking about in a more energetic way than usual. That after eating some strange red berries. In the 15th century, coffee beans were exported to Yemen, where it's believed people tried to make wine from them, and the first cup of coffee was born. Number 10 is margarine.
But I can't believe it's not butter. Allow me to have this yellow paste that was made in a laboratory.
Butter was declared public enemy number 1 in the 1950s by heart doctors as well as fitness fanatics because this pure, unadulterated source of saturated fat was going to lead us all to an early grave. So science came to the rescue with the magic of margarine, where hydrogen is added to vegetable oils to make a solid known as partially hydrogenated oil, which was supposed to be the healthier alternative to butter. Now, while there was an early reduction in heart disease thanks to margarine, studies have since shown that industrial trans fats were associated with a 34% increase in death of its consumers from heart attacks, stroke, and diabetes. And the most disturbing thing is that margarine technically isn't even a food, and yet it can be found in many processed foods and grocery stores. So while I'm not suggesting that you take a bath in a tub of melted butter, make sure you check the label before you buy. Number 9 is granola.
That crunchy goodness is gonna kill ya.
Once upon a time, granola was the healthiest thing to eat since sliced bread, which, as it also turns out, is very bad for you. You would think that dried fruits, nuts, and seeds combined into a bowl or formed into a bar would help you climb the highest mountain in Yodel, and it might. But if you don't actually climb a mountain, then you just consumed a crazy amount of calories. The health food granola that you're used to is really not healthy since it's typically made with butter, shortening, and or sugar, and it's often an excuse to cram in chocolate chips, sugary fruits, and yogurt covering so the average serving can have as much as 400 calories. Just keep in mind that there are healthier granola options, but instead of going for a misleading tsunami of sugar and fat, just go for the original cast member, a handful of raw nuts.
When I get hungry, I just eat some walnuts. Healthy.
Number 8 is fruit juice. Fruity. Wait, what? Not everything that comes off a tree is healthy, because while fruit juice certainly packs a lot of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, it's also just a glass full of sugar. Juice that you squeeze yourself from an orange that you hand-picked off an organic tree is certainly better than a supermarket variety juice pumped full of added sugar, preservatives, and other chemicals meant to taste like fruit. Tastes like sugary death. The truth is that juice is just the liquid essence of the fruit without all the healthy stuff like fiber, and it allows you to consume the calories of up to 5 oranges or apples without feeling full. Now, we all know that liquid calories from booze and soda are bad, but the same rules apply to juice since they don't provide a filling effect and cause a rapid blast of sugar into the blood as well as insulin, which is a hunger hormone, so you actually end up eating even more. You hear that? That's a whole lot of parents slapping fruit juice boxes out of kitties' hands. Number 7 are energy bars. There was once a time when every gym had an army of energy bar munching zombies convinced that they would get six-pack abs, tighter buns, and sweeter pecs if they just supplemented their routine with a power bar. These compact miracle meals provided athletes with the fuel that they needed for greatness, aka calories, to sustain their extreme workouts. But for the average consumer watching TV, it meant higher numbers on the scale.
I've eaten 40 of these bars. Am I supposed to be heavier now?
The problem is many of these bars are marketed as healthy snacks and contain as much sugar as a candy bar, so you might as well just have a Snickers. At least it'll actually taste good. Even the sugar-free or low-carb protein bars typically use artificial sweeteners for flavor and cause sugar cravings, which leads to weight gain, so I'll just pass on that protein bar, bro. While we're passing on that, can you spot me, man? Because I'm trying to get a swell on. Number 6 is diet soda. Newsflash to all you ordering a double bacon cheeseburger and a Diet Coke, one does not cancel out the other. In fact, it may actually be worse for you than a regular Coke. Diet sodas typically have 0 calories thanks to their artificial sweeteners and are a smarter choice for people with diabetes. But there is nothing nutritionally substantial in these fizzy, sort of sweet tasting drinks. What they do have are possibly carcinogenic food colorings, tooth enamel eroding flavors and additives, and the sweeteners like aspartame can create elevated risks of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. And if the risk of death isn't enough of a draw, diet soda also alters the bacteria in our stomachs that create glucose intolerance, which can lead to weight gain and obesity, which kind of defeats the purpose of a diet soda.
Double cheeseburger, an extra large fry, oh, and a diet soda. I'm on a diet.
Number 5 is couscous. I only eat couscous because it doesn't harm any animals. I don't care if it tastes like Mother Nature's fart. The exotic and healthy looking couscous is so clever, all dressed up like one of those healthy grains like barley, spelt, and buckwheat. But spoiler alert, it's just white pasta with clever marketing. That's right, suckers, couscous is just little balls of semolina, which you find in cheap spaghetti and is used as filler in meat stews in places like North Africa. Sure, the texture resembles the grains beloved by vegetarian hippies, but a cup of plain couscous contains 176 calories and 36 grams of carbs, which is about the same as many pastas, so don't fool yourself into thinking it's a health food. And if tiny balls are your preferred texture, might I suggest quinoa and other superfood grains that couscous is merely trying to impersonate.
Couscous? More like nope nope.
Number 4 is turkey bacon. Okay, this one personally devastated me because I used to eat nothing but turkey bacon. Bacon is so dang delicious, there is actually a United Church of Bacon that substitutes their faith in a higher power with faith in the higher flavor of greasy, meaty goodness. Pork belly bacon is as unhealthy as it is delicious because of the high fat and sodium increases your risk of high blood pressure and stroke. So the poultry cartels saw an opening and created turkey bacon as a healthy alternative. And boy, did we eat it up, even though turkey bacon is kind of rubbery or leathery and either too dry or too soggy. But because we think it's healthy, we tend to eat more of it. But turkey bacon is still processed meat, treated with mountains of sodium, artificial colors, sodium nitrates, and still has plenty of saturated fat. Now, turkey bacon is still a healthier alternative, but with only slightly less fat and calories, you might as well just go for the full pork bacon. Just don't go wild hog. Number 3 is coconut oil.
But man, I clean with it, I put it in my hair, and I drink it. What are you doing to me?
Be wary of any superfood where marketers claim it's healthy, especially when it has the word oil in it, which generally just translates into high fat. The coconut is indeed a miracle fruit for keeping tropical cultures alive, even in drought. Its fiber is used for rope for fishing, its meat, called copra, that feeds animals, fuel lanterns, and is where coconut oil comes from. Coconut oil does have photoprotective and antibacterial properties, but it still has 115 calories and 12 grams of saturated fat per tablespoon.
Leave that coconut uncracked, I think I'll pass.
Saturated fat creates low-density lipoprotein, or LDL, which is the bad kind of cholesterol. So its saturated fat content at 82% compared with 63% for butter, 50% for beef fat, and 39% for pork fat, coconut oil is in some ways the worst for you.
I think I angered a lot of people with that one. Don't be throwing coconuts at me, man. They kill you.
Number 2 are veggie burgers. Just like turkey bacon, but less meaty, veggie burgers are in theory supposed to make summer barbecues a little healthier if you ignore potato chips, corn, and keg stands. The problem is that patties don't grow on trees, so they must be bound together to create the burger texture, which often means unhealthy fillers like gums, yeast extract, and cornstarch. The actual veggie content is often low, and they can be loaded with bloat-inducing soy, salt, fat, and preservatives for long shelf lives, which hardly makes them a health food. A vegetarian meal is generally healthier than grilled meats that become carcinogenic when put to a flame. So if you're going veggie burger, choose brands offering mostly vegetables, whole grains, and legumes like lentils and beans that can provide fiber, vitamins, and minerals.
Otherwise, you could just be eating veggie death.
And number 1 is sushi.
I can't have sushi now either, man. That's it, I quit. It's my favorite.
Blue zones in Japan, where people live past 100, attribute their longevity to a diet of raw fish and rice. But if they ate Western-style sushi, like a deep-fried California roll, they'd die young and beautiful just like us. Many of the fish found in traditional sushi meals contain lean protein and anti-inflammatory omega-3s. But spicy tuna rolls are loaded with enough mayonnaise for 1 to 1.5 tuna sandwiches. Then there are the sauces, particularly soy, which is Sodium City and is ubiquitous in sushi meals and grossly overused by Japanese standards, so you can't even taste the fish.
And we haven't even gotten into the whole mercury thing yet,
where migratory pelagic fish like tuna absorb toxic metals. So just be mindful of that healthy sushi lunch you go to after your spinning or yoga class.
I raised my leg above my head today, but also I'm about to go eat some toxic metals, so I'll see you later. Okay.
Number 1 are death cap mushrooms. There's an estimated 10,000 different types of mushrooms in North America alone. So unless you're an expert, you may want to rethink your chances of properly telling apart the edible ones from the poisonous ones out in the wild. Amanita phalloids, or death caps, are, as the name implies, some of the most poisonous mushrooms you can find. While native to Europe, due to importing wood and certain nuts, these deadly fungi have found their way to grow in North America, Australia, Western Asia, and even some South American countries. Although they're actually rumored to taste quite pleasant, they'll also cause severe gastronomical upset and organ failure. Poisoning most commonly happens because people who find them think that they're normal or even hallucinogenic mushrooms, which was actually the fate of famous composer Johann Schobert, his wife, his child, 4 guests and his maid after insisting that his mushrooms were indeed edible. Yeah, they weren't, he did. Number 2 is hackerel. Hackerel is a type of shark that has been a staple food in Icelandic family homes for centuries. When faced with limited food resources, the Icelandic people turned to the abundant supply of hackerel in their waters. There was only one problem, of course. Hackerel is incredibly poisonous to humans. But thanks to some preparation methods handed down by the Vikings, this nasty toxic fish can be made edible. All you have to do is gut it, chop off its head, toss it in a shallow hole in the ground, cover it with rocks and sand, and leave it there for 6 to 12 weeks while it ferments in its own seeped out urine. Ah, delicious! Then after hand drying it for several months, you've got a meal. But if you skip those steps or if it's prepared incorrectly, you could easily get poisoned. Not only is it poisonous if untreated, but hackerel has the honor of being considered one of the most revolting foods on the planet. Bon appetit! Number 3 is fugu. 1 fish, 2 fish, blow fish, a dead person. An estimated 30 to 50 people every year fall victim to one of the most deadly foods in the world, and basically every one of them is doing so with full knowledge of the danger that they face. Fugu, better known as the pufferfish or blowfish, is considered a delicacy in Japan. The problem is though, a single fish contains enough poison to kill 30 adults with no known antidote. The toxins these things contain are 1,200 times stronger than cyanide. It paralyzes those who are brave or foolish enough to consume it while they stay fully conscious and die from asphyxiation. Chefs have to undergo at least 3 years of specialized training to be qualified to prepare the fish properly, which involves removing the creature's most toxic organ, the liver. Serving fugu liver was banned in Japan back in 1984, but that hasn't stopped some daredevil diners demanding to try it, succeeding in being served it, and then possibly paying the ultimate price. Number 4 is belladonna. Belladonna means beautiful woman in Italian, but sadly, it's also the name of one of the most poisonous plants on the planet. Known as the devil's berries or deadly nightshade, belladonna is found in Europe, North Africa, and West Asia. Both the leaves and the berries are extremely toxic and contain tropine alkaloids, which cause hallucinations and delirium. Fresh berries can be distilled into alcohol, and its toxins are sometimes even used pharmaceutically as a remedy for gastrointestinal disorders and insomnia, so it can't all be bad, right? Well, it only takes around 10 tiny berries from this plant to kill a full-grown adult, and they definitely have. Belladonna is believed to be responsible for the poisoning of Roman emperors Claudius and Augustus, and used by the Scottish King Duncan I in 1030 AD, who, legend has it, gave bottles of the drink to the Danish army, killing them without ever raising his sword. Number 5 is senaki. You know how people say don't play with your food? That's wise words, but in this case, you should probably watch out that your food doesn't start trying to play with you. The choking octopi is considered a Korean delicacy. Oh, don't worry, this one won't poison you. No. It will instead kill you in a much faster and far creepier way. The tentacles of the octopi are served raw immediately after being cut from the body of the animal, and like a chicken with its head cut off, residual nerve activity keeps the tentacles twitching. And those bad boys don't want to go down without a fight. The tentacle suckers will attach to your lips, cheeks, tongue, and if you don't chew fast enough and drink enough water, they'll actually latch onto your throat on the way down. This could cause you to very quickly choke to death. Approximately 6 people every single year in South Korea die from this, many of whom are men who believe that consuming it will actually boost their strength and sex drive. That's a fair risk. Number 6 is the ackee fruit. There are very few things better than enjoying some authentic Caribbean cooking, and not dying, of course. If you've ever been to Jamaica, you may have tried their national fruit, ackee. It's actually one half of their national dish, ackee and saltfish, which in September of 2011 actually ranked 2nd in a survey that National Geographic conducted of the best national dishes. Now, this may have you dying to go out and pick some ackee apples for yourself, But hold your horses because you'll literally be dying. Ackee contains hypoglycin, which causes blood sugar to drop to fatal levels. If the unripened or untreated fruit is eaten, you could fall victim to Jamaica vomiting sickness, which involves seizures and lethal hypoglycemia. In 2011, 23 people were confirmed to have died, and another 194 were suspected of having been poisoned after consuming the ackee fruit. Number 7 are giant Namibian bullfrogs. If you've ever wanted to try eating a frog, I recommend you go French style and stick with the legs, because when it comes to Namibia's version of them, any more than that might put you in the hospital or even worse, in your grave. Giant bullfrogs are a delicacy in Namibia and can be upwards of 9 inches long and weigh over a pound. Since they're virtually indistinguishable from many more edible frogs, these amphibians pose a real danger to those who crave frog meat. They're usually only found on the black market, not only because they're endangered, but also because they're highly toxic. The majority of the bullfrog is poisonous to humans, including its skin, tongue, and most organs, and eating one can cause kidney failure. Young adult males who have not yet mated are considered to be the most dangerous. That's right, a bullfrog with blue balls is deadly. Number 8 is casu marzu cheese. When the name for the food you're about to serve literally means rotting cheese, it might be better to serve cheddar cubes and crackers instead. Casu marzu is the Sardinian name for maggot cheese. Yep, you heard that right. Maggot cheese. This Italian sheep's milk specialty is made by removing the rind and leaving it outside so that cheese flies will lay their eggs inside of it. As many as 500 eggs are added to this dairy product at any one time. Once the larvae hatch, they eat, digest, and excrete the cheese from inside. It's the acid from this process that makes the cheese soft and ready to eat. So basically you're eating maggot poop. The thing is, you have to eat it when the maggots are still alive and squirming, because dead ones are highly toxic and yes, can kill you. What's worse is that if you don't chew them properly, living maggots will turn your innards into their new all-you-can-eat buffet. 2 dangers, 1 cheese, and a whole lot of nope. Number 9 is English yew. Found in southern parts of Europe, Southwest Asia, and Northwest Africa, Taxus baccata, better known as English yew, is a coniferous tree with bright red berries. A popular choice in landscaping designs, they're useful for creating ornamental topiaries and formal hedges. But beyond the wondrous beauty of these evergreen trees lies a murderous plant ready to sap you of your life. Every single part of this evergreen is highly toxic to humans, with the strange exception of its berries. Even with all that we know today, people still risk their lives and eat them. The seeds inside these very edible berries are just as toxic as the rest of the tree, so they must be prepared properly with the seeds inside the berries removed. If you ingest even 1 seed, you could experience increased heart rate, convulsions, muscle tremors, and cardiac arrest before ultimately dying. Even scarier, you could experience no symptoms at all and still be dead within a few hours. Man, those berries were good. Nope. And number 10 is water hemlock. At 8 feet tall and a distinctive collection of white and green umbrella-shaped flowers on it, you'd think that these plants would be easy to avoid touching altogether, let alone accidentally eating. But unfortunately, nature has a way of making deadly things look appetizing. Hemlock is one of the most lethal plants in the world and is considered to be the most poisonous plant in North America. History shows that it was a particular favorite in ancient Greece, most notably being responsible for the death of Socrates. What makes water hemlock so dangerous is that the fresh root, the most toxic part of the plant, strongly resembles a parsnip. But unlike parsnips, water hemlock contains cicutoxin, a neurotoxin that overstimulates the central nervous system, causing nausea, breathing problems, kidney failure, seizures, and soon after ingestion, death. See, this is why I stay inside most of the time, man. Everything's gonna kill you. Number 10 is vitamin water. Introduced in Queens, New York by John Darius Bickoff in May of 1996, vitamin water was advertised as a beverage that offered a number of different health and energy improvements. But in 2009, the Center for Science in the Public Interest filed a lawsuit against vitamin water's parent company, Coca-Cola, over the marketing claims that the product was healthy. In reality, each bottle had 33 grams of sugar in it and was more likely to lead to issues like diabetes and obesity over a healthy, cleaner, vitamin-enriched existence. Vitamin Water founder Darius Bikoff stated that his company's product wasn't meant to substitute daily vitamin intake, but supplement those vitamins that the consumer was already taking in. Wait, how does that make sense? If you're already getting enough vitamins, then how does it supplement you getting those vitamins? And man, Coca-Cola's just taking your money. Number 9 is shark cartilage. There's a strange but popular myth that's floating around the internet, one which you've probably already heard, that states that sharks are incapable of getting cancer. The theory, unfortunately for the giant fish prowling the oceans, is not true, as tumors have been found in them, but that hasn't stopped a number of people from scrambling to find themselves some shark cartilage to fight off what ails them, specifically to fight off cancer, though it's also been thought to help things like arthritis, psoriasis, retina damage caused by diabetes, and inflammation of the intestine. Some have even claimed that it helps wounds heal, though there's no concrete proof of any of this. In fact, a number of doctors have come out against shark cartilage being a useful treatment for pretty much anything except reducing the shark population. And ain't nobody got time for that. What's gonna happen to Shark Week? What am I gonna binge watch? Number 8 is tobacco. While today it's well known that smoking is an unhealthy habit and can cause various, sometimes crippling issues such as cancer and emphysema, back in the 15th century, tobacco was considered a disinfectant and a form of medicine to relieve headaches, colds, and other diseases. Tobacco was even popular as an anesthetic and energy provider, much like how we look at coffee today. When it made its way to Europe, it was dubbed God's remedy and the holy herb for its medicinal properties. However, we now know that basically none of that was true. Believe it or not, tobacco was even considered to be good for your teeth in some parts of India. I would love to see the teeth of those people. Actually, in fact, no, I wouldn't. There was even a tobacco toothpaste. Not only is that, of course, not true at all, but it's been proven that smoking is actually terrible for your teeth. It's true, I've seen people that smoke for like 40 years, they end up looking like the Crypt Keeper. Just Number 7 are psychedelic mushrooms. Before they got the label as an illegal street drug, psychedelic or magic mushrooms were considered a number of different things, including a medicine, a transportation device of sorts, and even a way to get enemies to talk during investigations in World War II. As a treatment, it was believed that through the use of psilocybin, which is the active ingredient that makes mushrooms so trippy, psychological ailments such as anxiety and depression could be dealt with swiftly. Others ate the feel-good food in order to ascend on spiritual journeys so that they could get a better understanding of this world. Now, while this treatment isn't widely offered anymore for obvious reasons, there are still some doctors who believe things like severe depression could be better handled through the use of psychedelic mushrooms.
Oh, you take that, you never know what's going to happen. My.
Number 6 is ecstasy. Developed by Merck, a German pharmaceutical company, this substance is now labeled as a recreational street drug, but that wasn't always the case. Also known as methylene dioxymethamphetamine, or MDMA, or Molly for short, it was making the rounds as the hot new product that was sure to help you lose those extra few pounds.
And fall in love with everything.
By causing excessive diarrhea and vomiting, the MDMA pills became popular as effective though harsh treatments, but it was also marketed to veterans as a cure for post-traumatic stress disorder as well as other ailments. Numerous pharmaceutical companies have experimented with MDMA-assisted therapy sessions for a number of patients, but its use as a weight loss pill right now is completely ridiculed. I've never tried it and I genuinely have no interest in trying it because apparently it just makes you want to stroke the furry wall. Number 5 is cocaine. The white powder street drug that has millions of people hooked on it today was once something that could be picked up easily for just a bit of indigestion. Oh yeah, that dinner didn't go down so well. Give me a second. Even Sigmund Freud, the world-famous Austrian neurologist who is credited as the founder of psychoanalysis, recommended cocaine for its medical uses, claiming it calmed his depression symptoms and helped treat his indigestion. Seriously, how did this indigestion thing start? What? Since its introduction in the 1860s, cocaine has been used as a fix for morphine addiction, asthma, and even tuberculosis. By the time cocaine had even become a well-known medicine, it was already a popular ingredient in certain beverages, specifically alcoholic ones, though it's arguable that the most well-known consumable that it was a part of was Coca-Cola. Most of you already know that, but some of you might not. That's right, that's why Coca-Cola is called Coca-Cola. The coca leaf. Cocaine! Number 4 is LSD therapy. As a hallucinogen, lysergic acid dithylamide, or LSD, has been a popular street drug for a long time, but back in the late 1950s and 60s, it was considered a useful medicine. Specifically, the drug was used to treat people with mental health issues. Initially developed at the Sandoz Pharmaceutical Company in Basel, Switzerland by Dr. Albert Hofmann in 1938, LSD is a synthetic chemical that facilitates feelings of interconnection and is considered an empathogen, meaning it enhances empathy in people. In the mid-1940s, it was looked at as a potential treatment for various issues, including anxiety or depression in cancer patients, and was even called a cure for alcoholism. Probably because when you take a strip of this stuff, it makes the alcohol bottles look like snakes. Criminalized in 1966, LSD is now an illegal substance, though some medical professionals argue it might be of some benefit to some people. Except those that don't like snakes. Scary. Number 3 are tapeworms. What? Yeah. If you're looking to lose weight fast but don't want to go through that whole eating less than normal thing, then there may be a solution for you. Simply have a parasite implanted in your body that can take some of those calories before they accumulate. Yummy. Yeah, I know, this sounds ridiculous, but it happened. In fact, in some places, it still happens. In the early 1900s, people trying to slim down began swallowing pills that were actually beef tapeworm cysts. The tapeworms would grow and rob their hosts of some of the foods that they were taking in, but the side effects were far from healthy. Hosts would be plagued with bouts of nausea and diarrhea, but getting rid of them after reaching the desired weight, of course, could prove more damaging, as many experienced abdominal and rectal complications. And by the way, if you've ever seen a tapeworm removed, there's videos on YouTube, it's like, it just keeps going, it's disturbing. Number 2 is chocolate. Ooh, chocolate, yes. It's hard to believe, but many years ago, the sweet treats that are collected by children at Halloween today were considered a potent medication. Back in the 17th century, chocolate was being hailed by whatever the equivalent of the medical community was back then as a miracle cure-all substance. The reason for this mistaken identification is an ancient medical theory that said if one of the 4 humors inside the human body was off balance, it opened the door to infection. Chocolate simply helped bring balance. Documents from the 1600s revealed that hot beverages such as teas and coffee were also prescribed alongside chocolate and were actually considered to be strong drugs that could be dangerous or even lethal if taken improperly. Well, I actually totally get that part because I've eaten so much chocolate at one point that I did think I was gonna die. Halloween every year. And number 1 is heroin cough suppressant. Today, we are well aware that the drug heroin is a devastatingly addictive substance that has cost a massive number of people their lives. But while multiple governments fight to eliminate the drug from city streets, there was once a time when it was openly offered as a remedy. In the late 1890s, experts at Bayer Pharmaceuticals realized that by boiling morphine, which was already a cure for coughs at that point, for several hours, they could create a concoction that, according to their claims could cure tuberculosis, bronchitis, and various other throat-affecting conditions. In 1906, the American Medical Association approved the replacement of morphine with heroin, which in less than 8 years caused 200,000 people in New York City alone to become addicted to the drug. There's pink slime in chicken nuggets. For many years, people have been asking what's in McDonald's chicken nuggets, and more specifically, at what point is that pink slime added? Well, this pink slime is, in reality, a meat-based product referred to as lean finely textured beef, or LFTB, and is actually used as a food additive to lower the fat content in ground beef. While McDonald's readily admits that they've used LFTB in the past for their beef, they haven't used it since 2011, and McNuggets have never contained it. And rest assured, burger lovers, that the pink slime was at the time considered perfectly edible. Still though, I'm pretty glad they got rid of it. It looks like unicorn poop. Taco Bell doesn't use real meat. Speaking of meat, did you ever hear that Taco Bell's ground beef is actually unfit for human consumption and contains only 35% grade D meat? I'm not gonna lie, I've heard that, but it never stopped me. Well, if so, you're just like millions of people, including Alabama firm Beasley Allen, who in January of 2011 decided to sue the company over the misleading claim that they were serving beef, which wasn't truly beef at all. But the firm had to withdraw their case after only 3 months, when in April 2011, Taco Bell proved that their product was 88% genuine beef and only 12% filler ingredients, which were all completely safe to eat. Still, man, 12% filler? How about 0% filler? Slow food restaurants are a healthier option. Many people still ask, why go out to a fast food place like McDonald's or Burger King when you could go to a sit-down restaurant and eat a real meal that's healthier for you? Next time somebody asks you that, answer them with this fact, that the healthier option dine-in thing is totally a myth. A study done by Drexel University in Philadelphia revealed that the average full meal consumed at a real restaurant consisted of 2,020 calories, 28 grams of saturated fat, and 3,512 milligrams of sodium. Just to, put that into context, a Big Mac combo with fries and a Coke has 1,090 calories, 12 grams of saturated fat, and 1,220 milligrams of sodium. Now, neither are exactly a healthy option, but in that scenario, believe it or not, the McDonald's is the healthier option. Big Macs for everybody! Arby's roast beef is made from gel. This is yet another ridiculous accusation against another fast food giant. The rumor here is that Arby's roast beef arrives at the restaurant in gel, liquid, powder, or paste form, which is completely absurd. The most popular rumor says that the product is gel, but before it's used, has to be heated until it, resembles meat. What actually happens is the meat arrives at each restaurant sealed inside plastic bags with only a thin layer of basting solution on it. Now, yes, that solution is gel-like, so that may be where the rumor comes from, but the fact remains that the roast beef itself is real meat. There's more caffeine in dark roast coffee. If you're looking to get a bigger buzz out of your morning cup of joe, whether it's from Tim Hortons, Starbucks, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, rest assured that simply ordering dark roast blend isn't going to be any buzzier than a regular cup. Where exactly the rumor about dark roast containing more caffeine started is anybody's guess, but the idea spread very quickly, especially with the bold flavor that the roasts have. The truth is, coffee beans are green to start and then go dark in the brewing process, losing caffeine as they darken. So, believe it or not, lighter coffee actually has more caffeine. KFC changed its name because it's not real chicken. When Kentucky Fried Chicken changed their name to KFC in 1991, rumors began flying as to why. The most incredible and sadly the most prominent one is that the company was forced to change their name, dropping the word chicken because they used artificially modified animals that were too genetically changed from real birds. And unbelievably, this rumor is still being spread 24 years later. Of course, it's total nonsense, as not only does KFC not raise their own chickens at all, but they changed their name due to wanting to step away from the negative connotation that the word fried has with consumers. KFC is absolutely real chicken. McDonald's food never spoils. Thanks to a certain documentary that was released in 2004 and hundreds of social media posts since, a myth has spread that claims that McDonald's Big Macs never decay, due to, of course, all of the harmful industrial chemicals that the company pumps into them as preservatives. And back to reality. The truth is, this myth has been busted by a number of food bloggers and backyard scientists who independently performed the same experiment, leaving Big Macs in different settings to rot. And rot they did. McDonald's burgers, just like the ones you make at home, tend to dry out during the cooking process, and extended exposure to the air just dries them out even more. So decomposition is harder to determine with eyes alone, but I still wouldn't eat the end result of that experiment. I am suddenly really hungry. Number 10 is the poor man's Big Mac. If you've ever found yourself craving the deliciousness of a Big Mac, but you're on a budget and you just can't give the clown all your money, then this secret menu item is for you. In 2008, to cut costs on the dollar menu, McDonald's replaced the double cheeseburger with the now famous McDouble, a relatively similar sandwich with only one piece of cheese instead of two. But it wasn't long before word spread that it's relatively cheap to turn this new addition to the fast food chain's menu into a smaller clone of the classic Big Mac. To order the poor man's Big Mac, simply order a McDouble with lettuce and mac sauce, but without ketchup or mustard. There are actually a number of McDonald's restaurants that will let you simply say a McDouble dressed like a Big Mac, because it's so popular that most employees are well aware of it. Only $1.50 instead of $4. Sounds good, except not so good to Ronald. And by the way, please don't show him this video, because I don't want to be hunted down by a clown. Number 9 is the suicide burger. Feel like your arteries aren't clogged enough? If so, get your butt to a Burger King and order the burger that's going to bring about the end of times, at least for your health. It's known as the suicide burger. If there was a way to make cheese seem super gross, this sandwich found it. The suicide burger is 4 flame-broiled hamburger patties, 4 pieces of processed orange cheese, bacon, and special sauce, all between 2 halves of a sesame seed bun. Known as the quad stacker in some parts, this blood pressure increasing mess is one of the most popular off-menu things that people order at the restaurant. The suicide burger only costs around $4, and it's so popular that most locations in North America know it by either name. If they happen to be one of the few places that doesn't offer it, simply order a triple stacker with an extra stack. Bam! Okay, 1 suicide burger. Would you like extra death with that? Number 8 is the quesarito. Despite all of the options for toppings at Chipotle, it's no wonder that someone finally had the backbone to announce they wanted more. Specifically, that they wanted 2 different items combined into one delicious mega burrito. Enter the quesarito. This now famous off-menu option at the Chipotle Mexican Grill combines the cheesiness of a quesadilla with the substantial meal that is the standard Chipotle burrito. Why am I ordering this? Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty hungry, but I also feel like risking my life today. Basically, they use a quesadilla instead of a simple wrap, but the result is apparently much tastier. Chipotle is a company that's grown rapidly since they were founded on July 13th, 1993, with a number of restaurants spreading across at least 5 countries today. Part of the reason for that success is the business model that says give the customers whatever they want, within reason, of course. The secret to this, though, is that it's just on the borderline between reason and insanity, so if you feel like eating a whole lot of stuff and maybe having nasty poops later, this is the one. Number 7 is the Hulk. Now, I know a lot of you have always wondered, how do I make my Taco Bell dining experience more thrilling? I gots to know. Simple, go off menu and grab yourself a more powerful meal with the Hulk. The Hulk is a bean and cheese burrito with a plentiful helping of guacamole added to it to give it a more green color and a lot more flavor. Guacamole is something that can be added to basically anything you order at Taco Bell, but the Hulk is in a whole nother league of its own. This is so popular that most locations will will be able to make it if you just simply order the Hulk. But otherwise, if they haven't, simply order a bean and cheese burrito with extra guac. For those looking to be even more daring and maybe just fill your whole body up with guac, you can upgrade to the Incredible Hulk, a 5-layer burrito with guacamole, literally replacing the nacho cheese. Hulk hungry! This is actually the healthier option, but be careful if you do decide to try this burrito. You wouldn't like it when it's angry. Number 6 is Meat Mountain. Lots of places will have tall burgers with a lot of meat and cheese, but only one has a mountain. That place is Arby's, where you can order yourself a meat mountain and basically go into a food coma immediately after consuming it.
Yeah, no, I know I only had a bite. I'm not done yet.
Scaling this pile of animal meat means that you have to get through 2 chicken tenders, roast turkey, ham, Swiss cheese, corned beef, smoked brisket, Angus steak, cheddar cheese, roast beef, and of course, bacon. But don't get it twisted, this is not some taboo hush-hush thing that nobody talks about. In fact, many Arby's locations proudly serve it. Some even advertise it proudly as the biggest sandwich Arby's ever sold. Quite literally, every type of meat that restaurant offers is collectively offered in this huge sandwich, which will set you back $10 if you choose to order it. But if you think about it, with all the different animals that it took to make this death sandwich, $10 is actually pretty decent. And if you are gonna order this, for the love of God, put a piece of lettuce on it to kind of balance it out. No, there's no way. Number 5 is Harold and Kumar's Order. Released on May 20th, 2004, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle is an American comedy that follows the main characters going through hell as they slowly make their way to the restaurant. In the film, White Castle is basically like the princess that the pair are trying to rescue. Upon finally arriving, each man orders 30 sliders, 5 French fries, and 4 fountain drinks. A ridiculous amount of food for any one person to consume. However, it turns out that truth may be stranger than fiction, as today you can order this exact amount of food by simply saying you want Harold and Kumar's order.
Don't worry, you don't have to do the bunny rabbit ears, they just say it. That would be weird.
For that, you'll get a pile of slider burgers along with a few giggles from the staff.
Those guys are gonna die.
In total, this monster of a meal clocks in at well over 8,000 calories and might just break your body, so enjoy. Number 4 is the Dirty Chai Latte. Word of advice, no matter how you order this, they're still gonna spell your name wrong on the cup.
My name is Matt, not Max. Stop putting Max, it's Matt.
The Dirty Chai Latte is a very well-known option, hidden between the lines of the Starbucks menu. Basically, this beverage is a normal chai latte with the normal amount of caffeine from the black tea used in it, except this one's got an extra shot of espresso in it to kick things up a notch. And this drink doesn't just come in hot form either. You can also order it as an iced dirty chai latte. But regardless of whatever way you go, if you find that the dirty chai latte just isn't giving you the caffeine-induced kick in the pants, you can grab yourself a double dirty, which absolutely sounds disgusting. The double dirty, which is a name that probably should be changed, is the same thing but with a second shot of espresso. Just get ready for a little bit of jitters, folks. Number 3 is the Triple Down. I'd say hold on to your pants for this one, but after you eat this, you won't need to do that. You won't even need a belt. This unbelievable sandwich was only an April Fool's Day joke at first, but 11 days later, the demand for it was so huge, it made it a real option. In April of 2010, KFC announced the Double Down, a chicken sandwich so awesome that it didn't have room for a bun. This Frankenstein-like creation is cheese, bacon, and secret sauce between not bread, but 2 pieces of chicken fillet. Now, of course, that's widely available, but something on the restaurant's more secret menu is the Triple Down. And no, that doesn't just refer to the amount of times you're going to need to lay down after eating this. Much like its baby sibling, the Triple Down is without bread, beyond, of course, the bread and coating of the 3 fillets of chicken that it's made out of. And if, for some reason, you're looking for a healthier option, you can get the fillets grilled instead of breaded and deep fried. Though, I should point out that if you're ordering one of these at all, eating healthy is likely not on your to-do list. Number 2 is the land, sea, and air burger. You know, there's those days where you're just super hungry and 1 to 2 animals just won't do. And if that's the case, head to McDonald's and order yourself the Noah's Ark of sandwiches, the land, sea, and air burger. This leaning tower of protein comes complete with 3 different sandwiches, each one the most popular of their type on the fast food chain's lengthy menu. First you take the land, or cow, in a Big Mac, then slip into the sea with a fish fillet, and finally add the air, a McChicken. Okay, sure, chickens aren't the best flyers, but land, sea, and land again burger sounds lame. Stack all 3 up and you've got yourself an assortment of flavors and creatures in every bite. Now, if you're feeling like really getting crazy, you can add another animal to the pile, a pig. Just ask for bacon. Cause hey, why only have 3 animals inside you when you could have 4? Wait, that sounded very wrong. And number 1 is the Grand Slam. Wendy's has always been famous for the shape of their burgers, with the company claiming a square patty reveals the visual quality of the meat to hungry customers. Which personally, I've never really understood. I don't really care if it's square, circular, rectangular, tetrahedron, just give it to me. Whether it's a classic single, double, or triple burger, you can count on the fact that you'll be getting a number of square patties. But what comes next reveals the subtle baseball reference that you may have overlooked. The Grand Slam is a 4-patty grease bomb waiting to go off. With all the toppings of a classic triple with cheese, but an extra patty and slice of orange dairy goodness, the Grand Slam has also been referred to as the meat cube, as it's so tall you could pretty much attack it from any side. The employees at Wendy's are usually pretty knowledgeable and apparently even get a bit excited when someone walks in and orders a Grand Slam. Try it for yourself. Or don't, because I don't really recommend dropping that kind of a grease grenade into your gut. Aspirin before drinking prevents hangovers. For as long as there have been hangovers, there have been false hangover cures. This first one claims that by taking a painkiller like ibuprofen or aspirin before a heavy night of drinking, it will reduce or prevent that awful feeling you get the next morning. No. First of all, no matter how weak they seem, no painkillers should ever be taken when they're not needed. Drugs are bad, okay? Secondly, ibuprofen relieves pain for 3 to 4 hours, aspirin closer to 4 hours. So if you take it the night before, how could it help the next morning? In addition, these pills can actually cause liver inflammation and erode stomach lining when combined with alcohol, so avoiding it when you're drinking is definitely best. In the end, taking painkillers before drinking does nothing for a hangover. Eating before bed will prevent hangovers. Speaking of preventing a hangover, after a night of drinking, many people turn to a late night snack. You know, often the greasy burger or pizza, under the belief that eating it will go a long way to stop a hangover the next morning. Hey, who's throwing down for Domino's? Yum. Sadly, this is yet again a myth. A delicious myth, but nonetheless a myth. Regardless of how greasy or absorbent the food consumed is, it's simply taken in too late. The alcohol is already absorbed into your system long before that late night snack. So next time, be smart and eat before you drink. I mean, you'll still get drunk as normal, but it will help slow down the alcohol absorption. High tolerance means it takes more to get drunk. We all have that friend or family member. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Bro, I can drink like a whole 24 pack in a night, bro. Yes, that friend or family member who says that they have a high tolerance and can outdrink others or claims that it takes more alcohol to get them drunk. But is there any truth to it? Well, no. Tolerance towards alcohol does exist, but it doesn't change the amount that it takes to get you legally drunk. All that it means is that it takes more alcohol than normal to make you feel drunk. So it's best that if you're one of those high tolerance individuals, that you remember this before operating a vehicle or any type of other machinery. Mixing energy drinks with alcohol makes you drunk faster. It's becoming more and more popular for people to order an energy drink with their alcohol. In fact, there are some energy drinks that you can buy right now in the liquor store with alcohol mixed mixed in them. Well, when you think about how you get a buzz off of drinking alcohol and get a rush from energy drinks, it's easy to assume combining the two will create an upcharged beverage, and this is actually widely believed. However, all the energy drink does is hide the effects of alcohol that make you sluggish. It does not change the amount that you need to get drunk or how drunk you truly are, though it has been known to lead to people not realizing how much they can handle and over drinking.
Dude, you drank like an entire bottle of tequila.
No, it's cool, bro. I had a Red Bull.
Fine.
Dark beer is stronger than light beer. Since darker beers look thicker and obviously, well, darker, it's commonly believed that they also come with a larger amount of calories, more carbs, and a higher alcohol content. However, unless it's been specifically added and thus posted on the bottle's label, a darker beer does not mean a stronger drink. Beer's color is used on the type of grain used to make it, and thus is not a good indicator of how much alcohol is in it. In fact, certain dark beers actually have less alcohol in them and contain fewer calories than light beers. One drink an hour will not get you drunk. It's a very common belief that limiting yourself to a single drink every 60 minutes will translate into your ability to legally drive and thus not be drunk 1 hour after your last drink. But this is a very, very dangerous myth. For one thing, men and women are built differently. While it may take one length of time for a man to metabolize alcohol, it often takes significantly longer for the average woman to do the same, based on different physiologies. And according to doctors, the average rate of alcohol metabolism is 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per hour. This means that a 320-pound man could consume 14 grams of alcohol, which is the standard amount in a 12-ounce can of beer, and metabolize it in a 60-minute period. But this also means that anyone who weighs less needs more time, so if you're not 320 pounds, you might want to rethink this myth. Beer before liquor, never sicker. Let's close this video out with one of the most common poems to ever be recited. Beer before liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. The idea is if you have a few shots of hard liquor and then switch to beer, your body will handle it a lot better than if you drank them the other way around. But is there any truth to that? Well, if you believe that, you're like a lot of other people. But the truth is, everything comes down to how much alcohol that you consume. No matter what alcoholic beverage you're drinking, if you drink too many too fast, you're gonna get sick. The only difference is how much alcohol each type of drink contains. So pace yourselves, people.